let's kick things off with bodies, which is getting so much of a rage. Let me open with a question. I literally just saw it last night.
Okay.
I haven't read anything online too much about it. I've heard some people call it a satire at Gen Z culture.
Yeah.
And like, am I crazy? But like, I'm here watching it like, yeah, it ends on a joke and jokes here and there. But I'm sitting here as a 31-year-old dude like, I don't know, man, this feels kind of accurate. Like, I'm on TikTok. Some people talk like this. Like, would you call this a satire? Is this accurate?
I think it's playing up the stereotypes of Gen Z to like max volume.
Because I see people call each other toxic and stuff all the time and gaslighting and all these other buzzwords. And
I found them all the characters in this to be insufferable. They were just, I did not want to be around any of these people. And I started watching the movie and I was like, can someone just please kill off all of these characters?
Granted.
I just don't give a shit about any of them. They're all so fucking annoying. Like,
I think that's like part of the point.
I know that's the point. I know that's the point of it. Like, they've been written that way, but I still couldn't. I don't know. Is that a critique? Do you think? When you want every single character to just flop over dead?
I think that's the success of the writer's job right there, because the whole thing is a huge commentary on miscommunication with the new gen, because everything's through the phone. No one's actually saying how they feel. And then when they finally do, no one even believes it and they can't handle it, because you can't even really express a feeling without it being offensive, like in any regard or whatever, and then the whole thing's just explosive. And it's like, is this how people like are gonna, how they're becoming like right now? Like, is it really this insane? We have all of this stuff to help us communicate, but no one is actually doing it.
I remember that one character when she was like going on about her podcast, and now she was carrying on about. I was just sitting in my seat like this, just like.
It's like, oh no, they're talking about me. They're talking about my podcast. They haven't listened to it.
And can I just say this? With Pete Davidson, do they just follow him around with a camera just in his everyday life?
I know, right? I know.
He just like acts like the same all the time. Yeah, man, I snort cocaine and do drugs, and I'm really
I think that was very intentional. I feel like he just speaks to the new, like, Gen Z really looked at Pete Davidson as in like, he's like the first one of us to become famous. Like he captures that energy, that essence, or part of it, right? Like it's not the whole thing, but like there's a very strong element of that. And I think that's what they love about him in a way. And so when making a movie like this, it's like that's essential casting. That being said, the second I saw him on the poster, I said to my girlfriend, he's either going to be the first one to die or he's the killer. And then second he dies, I'm like, told you. Because he's the only name attached to the film.
Yeah.
That's how they write this. He's Drew Barrymore in Scream, you know?
True, hey. I thought the acting was insane. Those monologues were phenomenal. My jaw was on the floor. The performances were just unreal.
Yeah. Look, I feel like maybe I jumped too far ahead here, but let's get into overall thoughts, because I do want to dig deep, but I don't want us to miss anything. So, AD, do you want to just kick off? Give me your overall general thoughts, or if there's anything specific you want to tap into.
Sure. I only had watched the trailer once. I didn't even really read much about it. So the whole thing, I didn't even know it was an A24 movie. But as soon as the credits started rolling, I turned to my sister and said, this feels so A24. And then it was like an A24 production. I was like, fucking, we're in for an absolute treat. I loved the pacing. I loved the build. I loved the excessiveness of everything. The deaths were gross and really, the second that they killed the first innocent, which was the boyfriend who tagged along, that made me feel so sick to my stomach. But then it was still funny, like, as it went on, just just how absurd this whole situation was. And I really respected the message and the way that he translated it through everything. You're correct. Every character was insufferable because he leaned into everything that a lot of people make fun of Gen Z for. And for me, like, I can personally relate to the whole lack of communication as time goes on. I feel like, I don't know, it's everywhere. Everyone's on their phones 24/7, constantly talking, streaming, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But I see it even with my sister and her friends, like being younger than me, or having made new friends in my industry who are like 7 years younger than me. It is so different. And sometimes, yeah, it's a bit insufferable with the lack of, I don't know, people to be able to communicate to your face as easily. Like in a lot of situations I've found myself in. So I really enjoyed that commentary. And the twist for me, I was like, this was one of the most refreshing twists I have seen in a very long time. I really liked it.
You talk about the ending?
The very end.
Yeah. That caught me off guard.
Was that how Pete Davidson's character dies? Or I saw this movie a long time ago, so was that?
Yeah.
So it's set up to be
dumbass.
Yeah, just for TikTok.
It was. Well, that's the thing. What I love about a great twist is like you start. The feeling you have when you start putting the pieces together once you learn that new information, where it's like, oh, hang on, this whodunit, which makes you think it's a slasher, isn't, because there's no killer at all. Like they've all killed each other based off a miscommunication.
What I thought was funny,
that was amazing
as well about that, right, was the whole thing would have been avoided if they had just checked his phone. Like, and that's usually the first thing that they would do is like be on their phone. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, no, that's great. What about you, Jesse? Anything to add when it comes to overall thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was a bit lukewarm. I felt when it got towards the middle, it was starting to become a bit muddled, I just felt, and a little bit all over the place. And again, all the characters, I just could not. I felt like it was hard for me to sit in my seat and listen to these characters talk because I just didn't want to hear them say anything. I found them so
old, Jesse.
Annoying.
You're so old.
And I'm the youngest one here out of the three of us. And
oh my God, that's true.
And I just found them so annoying. I mean, the main chick she was fine. Like, she was all right. The one who they suspected was had killed Pete Davidson. And yes, I didn't get
fucking Borat's daughter.
Yes,
I thought she was
Maria
fine,
Bakalova. Yeah.
But the rest of them, I just thought, and then it's like, you cheated and you did this and you didn't like my photo or you didn't comment or like, oh my God, like. And I get that's the main purpose of it, but I just found it so. But no, it's not a bad movie. It's a good movie, but there's just some part like when it got towards the middle, I was just getting a bit. Getting a bit like fuck. Like I need to breathe it from these people. Like
that's the problem when you have like a bottle episode in a way when it's like characters set to one location. You're stuck with those characters, so. If you don't like the characters, you're going in for a bumpy ride, I would say. As for me, man, the thing that took me that just really the thing about Bodies that really got me was the directing. This director, I think it's Halina Reijn. I think that's how you pronounce it. If I got that wrong, I apologize. Incredible. I knew this was going to be a great film starting from when they get to the house and there's a shot underwater of like the couples there, and there's there's barely any music, and it's just there for so long, and they just waited. Because it just made me realize, okay, a typical horror film aimed at teens, they would just have some trendy pop music playing.
Yeah.
They get to the house, they start talking straight away. Oh my God, did you like my podcast? Did you did you like my picture? Whatever. But they didn't. They stayed with the characters. You just sat on them, and then they eased you into it. So I'm like, all right, this is a choice. And then as the film goes on, like you start realizing like the star of the show, it's not the kills. It's not even it's not the kills. What's the star of the show are like these arguments. They just stay on these arguments and they're long. They go for minutes and minutes, like a typical Hollywood blockbuster or any film aimed at a younger audience. They would just cut to the next thing. And I know some people might say, well, it's a mature film, it's got blood. And I'm like, no, like when you have characters of this age and all these references and this music, there is an audience it's aiming for, and it is going for a younger audience. Just I would say the same thing about Euphoria, for example. And this is basically, these characters are very Euphoria, So, but they're not treating it like a My Fisher-Price, my first horror movie type thing. They're staying with the characters. They're putting character first. They're doing long conversations, and the acting is just chef's kiss. They're very believable performances, and that just blew me away. Shout outs to this movie, man. I really enjoyed Bodies. It just it was not what I expected. I actually went in knowing that like Gen Z vibes is a big thing, but I went in thinking this is going to be like a shitty film that Blumhouse would put out in January. You know, like I'm trying to think like Fantasy Island or Trick or Treat. You guys remember that movie?
I remember, yes.
I'll talk about that later when we talk about Smile. But I went in with pretty low expectations and left very satisfied. This movie's fucking awesome. It slaps, as the kids would say.
Oh my goodness. No cap. No cap.
Oh God, I'm so old. Any other thoughts or comments on Bodies?
Nope.
All right, let's move on. Bodies. Check it out if you haven't already. Or if you haven't already, we've spoiled it. So fucking deal with that shit.
Yeah,
bitch.